We're here at Radio Row with a very special guest. He's our compa. We love him. Gary Klein of the LA Times covers the Rams. Gary, another Super Bowl, another year. How does it feel to be in New Orleans or Nolans?
Well, this is a great place with a lot of Super Bowl history. And this is my first time in New Orleans for a Super Bowl, but I think they've had 10 previous ones.
You weren't here when the lights went out at halftime?
No, I was at home watching on television. But yeah, so a lot of crazy things have happened here, and it'll be a good matchup. The Chiefs and the Eagles, repeat of 2 years ago, so it should be exciting.
Why should Eagles fans feel like this time it could be different?
You know, as the beat writer covering the Rams, right? I saw the Eagles twice this year, and the Rams saw Saquon Barkley twice. In both those games, this looks like a team that, to me, was built to win a Super Bowl, right? Great offensive line, great defensive line. Jalen Hurts, a playmaking quarterback, great defense. Vic Fangio, the coordinator, and the X factor, Saquon Barkley. That's the difference from 2 years ago, is they have a running back now to go with Hurts. And if he performs at the level he's performed at this season, then if I was an Eagles fan, I'd be optimistic, although tough to bet against Patrick Mahomes.
No kidding. We actually spoke to Ryan Leaf a little while ago, and that's exactly what he said. He's like, I'll never bet against Patrick Mahomes. But going back to, like you said, you saw them a couple of weeks ago, that defensive line got younger. They went from Fletcher Joseph and some of these other guys like Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, they've gotten a lot younger. What do you feel like they did against the Rams to be able to disrupt Matthew Stafford?
Well, Jalen Carter had a great game, and Bo Limmer, the Rams' rookie center, had done a great job all year. In that game, struggled a little bit, and I just think, Vic Fangio has a history of doing pretty well against Sean McVay, and they didn't necessarily shut them down. The Rams were threatening there at the end, but that defense, which is a little bit overlooked, I think, because of what Barkley's done this season, has been fantastic. And again, I think that's another reason for Eagles fans to be confident, given that you still got to deal with Mahomes.
Yeah. So we move over. A lot of uncertainty. What the defense was going to look like. We went from F them picks to let's draft and let's develop.
Right.
Was that one of my biggest takeaways was the defense, how well they were able to. Yeah, they had some moments where they gave up big time games, like you said, Saquon Barkley twice and stuff. But I felt like that defensive line was the biggest strength of that team. What did you make of the defense this year?
Yeah, the big question for the Rams obviously was what's going to happen post Aaron Donald, and Les Snead drafted Jared Verse, number 19, with a number 19 pick, and then traded up to get Braden Fisk with the his second round pick from Florida State. And those two guys, along with Kobe Turner and Byron Young, really gave that defense a young shot of energy, and they did great. Like you said, there were a couple games, that first Arizona game, they got run over, but they really developed over the course of the season. And for a first-year coordinator like Chris Shula, I think that they kind of came through pretty well.
Seems certainty on the offensive side of the with the team, but going to Stafford, he should be a Ram next year, don't you think?
I would think, unless Stafford and his representatives come to the Rams with a demand that is, I don't know, outrageous isn't the right word, because he's seeking market value, and I think if you look at the way the quarterback market has gone the last few years, I think he wants to be paid accordingly. The Rams, I'm sure, have a number at which they would be happy, and my guess would be, given the fact that you don't have a guy sitting there that could take over right away, that the Rams and Stafford will come to some agreement. I think he'll be back under center for the Rams next season. Cooper Kupp, that's another question. Just given the extension, he signed after the Super Bowl, he's due a lot of money, and based on just some injuries he's had and production, through this season, the Rams entertained trading him early in the season, and they decided not to. I think now it's going to be a situation where, if he'll restructure that deal, there's a possibility, probably a good one, that he'd be back. But if he doesn't want to do that, I could see the Rams attempting to trade him, or possibly cutting him and letting him, try and find a new team.
What do you think about the offensive line? I mean, there was numerous injuries to different players, but did you feel like overall it's a good offensive line, or do you think they'll look to? I mean, everybody looks to make improvements, but what area do you feel like they would want to improve on the offensive line?
Well, I think they'll be looking at tackle in particular. Last year in free agency, they spent heavily to get Kevin Dotson re-signed, bring in Jonah Jackson. Jonah Jackson had injuries starting in training camp, so the offense, and they had linemen, suspended, others injured. So that line really didn't come together, it seemed like, till midseason or later. But with Jackson, a pending free agent, Rob Havenstein on the right side is kind of getting to the, he's at the latter half of his career. I think they're going to be looking at tackles. Joe Noteboom, I would guess, is not going to be re-signed, but they have a nice core there, with Steve Avila, and we'll see if Jackson can recover from his injuries. And Bo Limmer showed as a center that he can do the job too.
It seemed like Puka Nacua I don't know how you can take a step forward after such a great rookie year, but last year it felt like he was more poised. He made some great catches, like the catch that we saw you saw live in Philadelphia. But just how did you feel like he took his game to the next level this season?
Yeah, that injury early in the season, set him back. Obviously, kept him sidelined. But when he came back, he looked just like he did as a rookie, maybe even better, because he's playing even with more confidence. I think he's certain now in that offense. He knows the playbook. He's not guessing. And Stafford, obviously, and him have a great connection. So I would look for him to come back for year 3 and be he's their number one guy now. And the Rams have to be looking ahead with him and others in that draft class in terms of after this season, how are they going to manage their money to extend these guys? Chris
Shula has to be thinking about attacking the back end of that defense, don't you? Safety, cornerback. Mm-hmm. Just what are is that kind of the key area of need for them on the defensive side?
I think they're pretty good at safety. I think they're pretty set. Quentin Lake, Cameron Kinchins came in, played well. Jalen McCullough was a surprise. But at corner, I think they definitely have need. I mean, they signed Darius Williams. He was hurt for much of the first part of the year, came and played pretty well in the second half. But he's getting older. Cornerbacks over the age of 30, they're getting rarer and rarer. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. Akello Witherspoon stepped in, and he made some good plays, but he was kind of playing on a veteran minimum contract for the second year in a row. And I would guess that in the draft or free agency, they'll be looking at corners.
Our great producer, Vic, the producer, just handed me that the Texans are hiring Rams tight ends coach and game passing coordinator Nick Caley as their new OC for C.J. Stroud. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, Sean McVay's coaching tree, not just at the head coaching level, but assistants. This is an interesting year for the Rams because typically his staff turns over, he loses a coordinator or offense, defense, whatever. This year coming back, he'll have both coordinators in place, but some of those assistants are going to get, other opportunities that they've earned, I think, just from their own resumes and then the years that they've spent with the Rams and the success they've had. That's opened up possibilities. So, that's great for Nick Caley, and McVay, I'm sure, has a list of names that he'll be tapping to try and replace him.
Have you guys spoken to him about that? I mean, the fact that ever since he came into the league, they're always going after his quarterback coach, guys like that. What does he say is key when it comes to not just replacing those guys, but making sure that they know, hey, this guy's doing really good for us. They're probably going to come and poach him. So what has he kind of told you guys about that?
Well, I think he's, selfishly, of course, he'd like to keep his staffs intact, but I think he is was a recipient of the kind of treatment that he wants his assistants to have. Give them responsibility as they work their ways up. If they can find jobs with more responsibility, it's tough on you, but you know what? That's what they're all in it for. They all want to further their careers. So I know that has been a challenge for him, but I know that this season he's feeling better about it because he's got both, coordinators that will be back in the fold.
Vic, any questions you got? Anything else? I did a good job. See, look, that's a thumbs up. He knows the Rams. I don't know. So, but any final thoughts you have on this offseason? I mean, it seems like this is the first offseason where Sean isn't being asked about, oh, hey, maybe he's going to go into the booth or
Right.
maybe he's not going to be back. So maybe that's a positive moving forward because, there's always questions about whether he's going to entertain leaving or staying or what. But I feel like this team is headed in the right direction. And I feel like they've drafted well, and that's what they're going to continue doing.
Yeah, I think he was, once he decided to come back a couple years ago, he was ready to take it for a longer haul. And I think this team, on some levels, even though they had some struggles early with injuries and continuity and everything else, I think he really did enjoy it. And I think the rookie class, the last two rookie classes actually, but this one in particular with Jared Verse and some of the energy that it's brought, really helped him develop some skills as a coach that maybe he didn't have to in the past because it was a little bit, although the Rams were young, they always had this, veteran nucleus. And so he seems to be, energized, married. He's got a kid that's a son that's 1.5 or something. So he seems to be in a good place in life. And, but just like he says, and it's a little bit cliche, but I think it's true of everyone who's in this business, like it's a year-to-year business. And so we'll see what happens this season and beyond.
Jared Verse was fun to watch. I mean, to hear him talking crap to Philly fans and all these fans, I thought he was a lot of fun to check out. So we'll see what he brings coming up. But thank you so much. Do you have a prediction, or are you writing that for Sunday?
I don't think I have to predict this game. I think Sam Farmer's going to take care of that. But like I said, I think the Eagles are built to win, but man, Patrick Mahomes.
He's right. He's looking at you. Look at him. He's looking at you. Thank you so much, Gary, for jumping on with us. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.